Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Ryan, the official host here at Reddit Voice, and today we're going to once again be looking at some of the top stories from r/ProRevenge. Before we do though, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to stay up to date on all the latest videos. I used the rules of the church to take vengeance on a religious entitled teacher after she humiliated for years. I'm going to call entitled teacher Umbridge because she was literally the real-life Dolores Umbridge from Harry Potter. Just a prerequisite to those of you watching the video right now, the TLDR is at the top, but I'm not going to read it because you guys haven't heard the story yet. So, for a bit of background, I'm Northern Irish, and here religion is a bit of a big deal. Not as important as decades past, but still. Basically, if your family's Catholic or Protestant, it can determine your whole lifestyle. Where you live, where you go to school, what children's group you can join. I'm what's known as a halfer, meaning my father's family are Protestant and my mother's family are Catholic. My sisters and I ended up being raised Catholic because even though my parents nor my father's family are very religious, my mother's family is. So we got sent to Catholic schools. And some of the teachers we've had were the kind of religion crazy that you try to keep far away from. This story stars one of the teachers from said high school. So as well as being dyslexic, I also have Asperger's syndrome, and I wasn't diagnosed until high school. My mom was terrified of me getting bullied in high school because of it, so she made it very clear to my teachers that they're not to make a big deal out of it. About 2 weeks into my first year, I got called out of my class to meet my counselor, Mr. Hazard. Crazy teacher number 2, not very important to the story. And my year head, Umbridge. They said they wanted to explain to me and my friends about my Asperger's and dyslexia so that we can understand it a bit better. I didn't really understand it myself at the time. Mom didn't want me becoming paranoid about it, so I only wanted to have the essential details until I was older. And I had only 2 friends, so I said I would like that. The next day, my whole year, which was about 50 kids, small school, was called to an assembly. All about me. My autism, as they repeatedly said, instead of Asperger's, which is much less severe. How that meant I would be a bit odd and how everyone should be nice to me and so on. It was unspeakably embarrassing. I was not at all like what they were describing, and enough time had passed that everyone knew it. Afterwards, every student in the year took turns to come up to me and say how sorry they were that I had to go through that. Even the mean girls that didn't like me and the boy I had a crush on. My mom was furious, but Umbridge said that I had asked them to do it and that they were only trying to help me. This is how Umbridge worked. If she wanted to do something, even if she had been told not to do it by a parent or student, she'll go ahead and do it under the manipulative guise of, "I'm your teacher, I'm just trying to help you." This was the first major insistent of 2 amongst many, many other smaller times when parents didn't get involved, but incident number 2 was the one that took the cake. My 6th year, I was a junior head girl and my grades were some of the top in the school. I worked hard for all that, and I had some great teachers that weren't Hazard or Umbridge, who supported me. Umbridge was so proud of me and loved to brag that I was the mentally disabled girl who her school got to come out of her shell and rise to success. Ugh. I was a means to an end for this woman. Something to make her look good. One night, me and my friends had a sleepover at my house, and without my parents knowing, we made and played with a Ouija board. I know, stupid, risky, don't mess with demons and ghosts, yada yada yada. Trust me, I'm getting to that. And just to let you know, nothing came of it, and I even still sleep in that room. So, about a week later, I go to school, having basically forgotten about the Ouija board, and the whole place is buzzing. I'm wondering what was going on when one of the school years runs up to me and asks all panicky, "OP, are you really a witch? Umbridge is telling everyone that you worship the devil." Yup, not joking or exaggerating, Umbridge had somehow found out about what happened in my home and was blowing it up. I felt cold, and one of my friends, who was still at the same school as me, met me at the canteen and wanted to know what was going on. Neither of my friends had told anyone, and we had no idea what had happened. Only my name was being thrown around, not hers or other friends, and my friend was ready to punch Umbridge. We decided to try and be fair and talk to Umbridge ourselves. We made our way to the teacher's room and past the principal's office on the way, where I found my mother. The school had called my mother, and she was laughing. Apparently, when Umbridge called my mom, she just said, "We need to talk about something your daughter has done." So she sat my mom down with the principal, who also wasn't aware of what was going on, and Mr. Hazard. Mom says that her exact words were, "Mrs. O.P., are you aware that your daughter is in a cult, worshipping the devil?" Mom burst out laughing, and the three teachers were silent. Umbridge and Mr. Hazard in disgust, and the principal in shock at the accusations. Umbridge insisted my mom take this seriously and that she has very reliable sources who say that OP was trying to summon the devil with a Ouija board at a sleepover last week. Umbridge had details she should never have, like that we had made the board out of paper and a shot glass. That is scarier than the ghosts. Mom laughed harder. "Umbridge, you've known OP since she was 11. You watched her grow up. You should know her better than that." I totally believe that she played with a Ouija board, but never to summon the devil. If me and my husband had known at the time, her father would have made her a proper Ouija board out of wood. Yep, that's how serious my parents took religion and the supernatural. Umbridge got laughed out, and the principal apologized, saying that this should have never happened, and we are not that kind of school or those kind of Catholics. And I have teenage daughters too, who have posters of vampires and werewolves in their room. I know teenagers don't take stuff too seriously. Mom left still laughing, and Umbridge and Hazard, I assume, got a long lecture from their boss. Not that it helped. My hard-earned reputation was in ruins. I got teased and got smart-ass comments for months after. I don't know what Umbridge was thinking doing this. I mean, she loves having the "I'm higher than thou" stance and talking down to students about menial things, but this was taking it too far. And then Advent came in. In case you don't know, Advent is a series of church services in the weeks leading up to Christmas. A kind of pre-Christmas, except without presents or fun. And every Advent and Easter, Umbridge would make her year walk across town to attend her church's services. She couldn't make us go every week as she would like, but come hell or high water, she will get us there for the major holidays. Now this is the stage for my revenge. I have a really awesome godfather, more like an uncle to me. He's a very religious man, and he became a priest some years ago. He's what I imagine a good Catholic to be. He's the most kind, generous, and forgiving person I know. He's also the most supportive person you can ask for when it comes to religion. This is very important, and it'll all come together, don't worry. When I was a kid, I was an altar girl for the same church that Umbridge attended. The first ever, as I was told. It was another thing she loved to brag about. When I started to stop believing in God, I felt terrible. I thought that I was going to hurt the priest I served, Father McCannon, but I still wanted to quit being an altar girl. I turned to my godfather for advice, and he told me something very important. First, that Father McCannon won't be hurt and will understand how I feel. Second, forcing anyone, even yourself, to keep praying to God when they don't truly believe is not supported by the Catholic Church. He told me the story of the prodigal son who wandered from God and home but returned truly seeking forgiveness. He told me that the point is that it's okay to not believe in God, and I'll always have someone to turn to if I need. He was right. When I talked to Father McCannon, he just smiled and said he understood. My godfather also taught me a little trick to use if anyone tried to force me to church, or more especially, to take Holy Communion when I didn't want to. At long last, my vengeance. So Umbridge makes us walk across town to church in the winter with no coats because you're all representing the school in your uniforms must be perfect. Everyone hates it. We had exams to study for and didn't like being yanked out of class. So, as everyone's filing out into the cold, I already had everything planned in my head, but I decided to give Umbridge a chance. I waited until everyone else had gone in, then approached her. "Miss, I was just wondering, for Holy Communion, can I just stay sat down? I just don't feel it's very respectful for me to take it when I don't really believe anymore." Holy Communion, for any of you non-Catholics reading, is basically the most important part of Catholic Mass. Everyone lines up and the priest says a little prayer with each individual, then gives them a small circle of holy bread to eat. It's a way to honor the Last Supper and remember Jesus dying on the cross. Umbridge looked like I had just walked up and slapped her across the face out of nowhere. OP, you're a head girl of a Catholic school and representing us in front of the whole communion. You will take Holy Communion. With that, she marched me into the church and sat me in the front row. Well, I tried to be nice. So the first half goes as normal. I got away with staying quiet throughout all the prayers and songs. Then it came to Holy Communion. There were 3 teachers escorting us, and they lined up first to be free to herd us teenagers up onto the altar. I was first after the teachers, and as I stood happily noted that the church was packed, not one free seat anywhere, I also happily noted that the priest conducting the service was Father McCannon. So, I approached with my hands on my shoulders, arms crossed, that's the trick, and next to no one knows about it. Where I come from, anyway. It's literally a way to tell the priest, I'm just here out of respect, but I'm not participating. Seeing me made the father pause. Then I saw he recognized me. I said, "Hello, Father McCannon." With a smile that said I knew what I was doing, he gave me the same kind of smile that he gave me years ago when I made the sign of the cross over my head while muttering a small prayer and let me sit back down. On my way, I saw everyone's faces. They were all thinking the same thing. What is she doing? Umbridge's face was the best. Just to explain why the revenge was so good, of course, this was Umbridge's church, and everyone in attendance, not with the school, knew each other and talked to each other. Of course she talked about me. She would even bring me over sometimes to introduce me. Have you met my head girl from my school? She has autism, and we're so proud of how far she's come. Do you know she used to be an altar girl? So I concluded that if she was talking about me so much, then naturally the Devil Child incident hadn't passed without at least a mention, probably being more anonymous about who because of all of the boasting she liked to do. What I have basically done was planted the idea of the truth, if not outright, outed myself as the rumored Devil Child, her beloved head girl. If I hadn't made a connection between me and the occult thing, well, getting a blessing instead of a communion is a scandal in itself. I sat back down with a big smile on my face. After church was over, we started back to school. One of the other teachers, another really awesome guy, and my favorite teacher came up behind me and said, "Excuse me, missus, but what the hell did you do?" My smile never wavered. When I crossed my arms like I did, it told the father that I didn't want communion, but I meant no disrespect. That's it? That's it. He was smiling now too. He knew me and knew the real reason why I couldn't take communion. Umbridge is furious with you. She's staying behind to talk to Father McCannon right now. Let her. I didn't do anything wrong, and I gave her a fair chance before Mass started. He laughed, and I spent the whole walk back to the school repeating myself about why I got special treatment to my fellow students. I made it clear that I didn't just do it to get back at Umbridge, but because I found disrespectful to make people take communion when they don't believe. Apparently, I wasn't the only one who had issues with religion, and many simply didn't know that they had a choice. I could see the wheels turning in their head when I said that anyone could do it. So it's not just because you used to be an altar girl? Anyone can seriously do it? Even me? For the first time ever, we all hoped Umbridge would force us to church the following week. Of course she did, and of course she ordered me to take my Holy Communion, and I had better not pull the same stunt again. Obviously, she had gotten nowhere with Father McCannon last week, and obviously had no explanation to her friends on Sunday. Of course I did it again, and the whole year joined me. Around 50-some sixth-year students lined up and got blessings, and no one got communion. All grinning like fools, we've all been burnt by Umbridge at some point or another now, and we were burning back in the most personal way possible. She had lost all authority over us in her favorite house. I honestly think she lost it a little after because she was never the same. The following week, Umbridge called an assembly and gave a speech filled with crocodile tears. "How could you do this to me? After all," I'll do it in a normal voice. "After all you've done for you children, you humiliate me in the school in front of the whole community. My mother was attending last week. Do any of you understand how that made me look? I demand that you all apologize right now. Say you're sorry." Silence. She couldn't force even one fake sorry from any of us. She looked to the other teachers for help, but they just shrugged. What could they do? She was the yearhead, not them. Did she want them to give the whole year detention? Suspend us? We technically hadn't done anything wrong. Umbridge had lost. She got no empathy from any of us. But before dismissing us, she did announce that Father Black nor Father McCannon would be coming to the school to conduct Mass, and everyone will attend and take communion, or else. Except for you, OP, you can stay sat down. It was a small victory, but for most of us it wasn't enough. Father Black's Mass was that afternoon. Chairs were lined up, and a temporary altar was made in the PE hall. Father Black was a young new priest and was coming in to replace Father McCannon, who planned to retire. He was actually a really chill guy and loved telling stories. I did feel bad that this was his first impression of our school, and I think Umbridge wanted to try and get the new guy on her side while he was still getting to know everyone. That service was hilarious. The arm crossing thing was really the vengeance that kept on giving. Once again, Umbridge and the teachers went first for Holy Communion, and the kids were lined up. Some students thought that Umbridge had had enough and they didn't want to make a bad first impression with Father Black, but most didn't care. I sat there trying to contain my laughter as Umbridge ran up and down the line like a frazzled chicken, forcing people to put their arms down only for them to put them back up when she walked away. Eventually, Umbridge just started telling people to sit back down. These were just the normal handful of troublemakers who just wanted to mess with her. Everyone else, though, waited until they got right in front of Father Black. Though they were delighted that I got to stay sat down and happy to take it, we knew Umbridge hadn't learned her lesson about respect and we were still rebels. Poor Father Black. He knew the meaning of the arm crossing, and seeing as so many students were doing it, he was probably making him wonder if he was definitely in a Catholic school. Afterward, Umbridge chased everyone but the prefects out of the hall, and us prefects were made to tidy away the chairs. A couple of good teachers did stay to help us. Umbridge had pulled Father Black into the hall after he put away his things, and I couldn't hear what she was saying, but I could see her through the window and the double doors. Her face was desperate and flustered as she talked. Father Black just looked like he wanted to leave. I did feel terrible for him, and when he walked away, I saw Umbridge taking a deep breath as she was gearing up to come and rant at us again. I told one of the teachers with us that I was going to the bathroom real quick and rushed out the door after Father Black. I caught him at the reception and explained what was going on while apologizing between every other sentence. Father Black just laughed, looking really relieved. "Oh, I thought it was just me. I thought it was because I was the new guy. I was really worried." He gave me his approval for standing up for ourselves, and that's when he came to Umbridge, marching up the hall like an angry bull rhino. I apologized again a bit louder for the receptionist to hear, and he said also a little bit louder, "It's okay. God bless you, my child." He practically ran out the door. Umbridge caught up to me and said, "Why are you not in the hall? What did you say to Father Black?" I just apologized to him. I felt bad he had to go through that. The receptionist jumps in to back me up on what I said, as she had been refocusing on the computer until then. "Well then, what about me?" Umbridge demands. "Sorry, miss? Don't you think you owe me an apology? Because of your actions, you embarrassed the school in front of the town, Father McCannon, and now Father Black. Don't you think you should at least say that you're sorry? You should count your blessings that you're still junior head girl. I have half a mindset to suspend you if I weren't so fond of you." "Fond of me?" she says. I remember glancing at the receptionist's face. The "am I really hearing this" face. "Come now, think, OP, of how much support this school has given you over the years. How many times I've helped you over the years. Don't you feel bad? The stunt has gone too far. Don't you think that you should at least say that you were doing wrong and that you're sorry?" Oh, I remember. I remember that manipulative tone and the help she's given me. I actually started to feel bad until she reminded me how she wrongly outed me as autistic in the most grand way, how she needlessly had me followed and babied for years. Every time I had to make small talk with perfect strangers because she wanted to brag about my accomplishment, how even a month ago she told everyone that I worshipped the devil. Now she expects me to swallow my pride and say that I'm sorry like a good little doormat because I gave her a taste of her own medicine? I don't think so. I glared at her. I glared at her so viciously that she actually took a step back. I owe you nothing. I walked away without being dismissed. Umbridge and the receptionist were left in a stunned silence. I didn't look at people like that. I didn't talk to teachers like that. I was OP, the good girl, the one that was always polite and always followed the rules to the letter, the one who always did as I was told and always spoke to my yearhead with so much hate. Naturally, I didn't get head girl the next year, which everyone said was bull, and I didn't care because I had worse stuff to worry about by then. That's severely entirely different stories. I didn't spread any rumors. I just told anyone that asked the truth. That Umbridge just didn't get it. She didn't understand why we decided to turn on her, and they told others, their friends and their siblings of others, younger years, and when I said that she was never the same before, this was why. Her students didn't listen to her anymore. Her colleagues could barely stand her, and I cannot empathize how important people's opinions were to her. I haven't met anyone that knew her as a teacher that doesn't swear that she went a little bit mad in those last 3 years. Would it surprise any of you that up until then, Umbridge had been the religious studies teacher at our school? I think you'd be as surprised as we were when she became the science teacher when one of the older ones retired. No one had any idea how this happened. She immediately set up a little altar next to the door of the science room with a little bowl of holy water and made students bless themselves as they came in and out. She taught the Big Bang Theory like, "Listen children, you have to know this to pass your exams, but don't take it seriously." Grades in science got so bad that they actually brought in another science teacher to pick up the slack. Mrs. Lynn was very nice but very strict. She looked out for my youngest sister after I had already left the school. Umbridge became vice principal, and she used that position to turn a study room into the library into an oratory, a little room you can go to pray in whenever you want, and it was never used. She made Father Black come back to the school every major holiday and at the end of the start of the years to hold mass, and even got the bishop to visit, who I had a very awkward meeting with. The old man patted my head and then just stood there talking with Umbridge, the principal, and Father Black with his hand on top of my head for like 10 minutes. Again and again, she had local newspapers come and report on the school sports team wins, high exam results, every sports day. If it was not noteworthy enough for a small county newspaper, she made sure they talked about it. And of course, she slipped herself into every photo. Not even the principal did that. The joke was on her though, because her mention in articles basically amounted to, on the far right of the pictures is Vice Principal Umbridge. We don't know why she's there. The more she tried to shovel in religion, the more she tried to take credit for our accomplishments. The students pushed back against her more and more, and people just started to tune her out. The higher positions she shoved her way into, the more ridiculous and mad she made herself look. Kids that came to the school after us were told by other siblings that Umbridge was crazy and not to listen to a word she said. After I left, she and Hazard actually had the nerve to try and go after my 2 younger sisters, like they expected them to be more passive than their big sister. Nope. I'm actually the quiet passive one of the 3. My sisters didn't take any of what they tried to dish out. If they tried to push something onto them that was out of their control, like a detention or a suspension for someone else's issues, they didn't hesitate to get our mom involved. I usually handled these problems myself very well when it was me and rarely got my mom involved, but my sisters never saw the point in trying to do it themselves when mom did such a sublime job. Mom is a very, very scary woman. You just didn't mess with her babies. End of. By the time she retired, Umbridge was a broken woman. She was honored by the school for 30 years of work, but I heard the ceremony was quite half-hearted. Things most definitely improved after she left. The school got some money, and a lot of old rooms got redone and updated. I wouldn't say that I planned all of that initially. I was happy just to humiliate her in front of the whole congregation with the priest and all of my year backing me, but I think this was the one that started it all. Definitely, I can say that no one felt sorry for her in the end. I met one of the ladies that still work in the school canteen today at work, and I asked her if she remembered Umbridge calling me a witch that one time. Her response was, "Umbridge? Oh, that woman was a cow. LOL. Bonus story. My mom once brought my godfather to one of my sister's parent-teacher meetings in full priest getup. Umbridge apparently broke down in tears with delight and said, OP is so lucky to have you. Such a good influence on her life. Ha! That's the man that taught me every trick I used against you, you silly bitch. Still, you're not wrong. Edit. We did eventually learn about how Umbridge found out about the Ouija board. You see, those two friends and me were also senior members of what's essentially our version of Girl Scouts. We were there the night after the sleepover and were talking about the board in the bathroom. When we thought we were alone, turns out one of the counselors had been listening at the door. She told my old primary school principal and he called Umbridge at my high school. It was all done very quietly, so there's a whole network of crazy Catholics out to get us. Lovely! And if you stuck around for this 25-minute and 56-second long story, then I will finally give you what you deserve, and that's the TLDR. Just because you're a teacher doesn't mean you're always smarter or better than your students. You will be humiliated. And with that, my friends, we've made it to the end of today's video. If you truly made it to the end, I congratulate you and thank you for being a fan. As always, my name's Ryan, the official host here at Reddit Voice, and I look forward to seeing each and every one of you guys in the next video.